We are back at the Denby. It's Everton who've saved their Premier League soul in the last week or so. 9 points from 3 games. Today it was Everton 1, Brentford 0. I've got Mark Moser with me, I've got Matt with me, I've got Keith coming over in a second, undoubtedly anyone else who joined just to celebrate, which I don't know, probably see at the stage of this summer that it was miraculous but also quite sad as well. Certainly not our fault, Mark Moser, but Everton today 1-0, another conventional and a familiar looking Sean Dyche performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Familiar looking Sean Dyche. Just
in a stride.
Screams, I've been to Everton direct now, done it, yeah.
Discount stage at the season, like 50% off.
You can't go shopping in the sale and fucking fool me, mate. It was a weird game, actually. I think in many ways it was exactly the game it was always going to be after Wednesday night.
After the Lord Mayor showed me what I was saying the other day.
Yeah. It was a bit of a procession in the second half because we were playing against a team who really weren't trying to do anything. If ever a team has screamed our season is over with 4 games to go, then that was it. There was a lot of relatively nice and sideways possession in the first half, but at no point could you have convinced me that they were ever going to be the more likely team to score a goal. Don't get me wrong, we weren't fast and free-flowing ourselves going forward, but I think an opposition and a game where you just needed, you kind of over the line, but you just need to have that final closure of safety. It was kind of perfect for that, wasn't it? They were very
newly was side that stayed in the Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And we're going to see exactly that side in the next few weeks because we'll be it. But yeah, routine. I don't think a team has ever done less to win a football match. I would say exactly the same in the Burnley game at Goodison Park as well. But quite frankly, no more needed to be done today than what we achieved. It's always going to be a struggle when Dominic Calvert-Lewin doesn't play. Whether it is a debutant like Chimiti or even someone who is supposedly more experienced in Beto, it takes a massive amount out of our play. To his credit, in the first half, whenever Calvert-Lewin doesn't play, my assumption is that every single ball that goes forward is going to rebound straight back at us, and it wasn't quite as bad as that. Sadly for the lad, he's just realising what the lone striker at Everton really means on your CV. It's an absolutely thankless task. It wasn't quite just smack the ball up at the lad and see what he can do, but I think in terms of creativity, he's going to be left wanting a little bit, isn't he, today? But I just think in summary, it was just all it ever needed to be, and it just means that with 3 games left now, we can finally just take our foot off the gas a little bit. I think we all know what the Emirates on the last day of the season means for an Everton side, but it wouldn't surprise me if you saw that a couple of more times before the season ended.
Probably get a ticket for that, can't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. As long as you promise to take a balloon and fancy dressed and you're in. But yeah, it was just enough. And I think everyone after Wednesday night was just content for another 3 points and yet another clean sheet for an Everton side who defensively anyway have really turned an enormous corner this season.
Matt, Goodison's all of a sudden become a fortress that I thought was never going to return at certain points this season. I know you're probably one of the most optimistic Blues that I know, and I'm sure you'll see that as a compliment when we've had discussions about this. I'm the complete opposite of that, as we do in our group so often. Feel a little bit like the Lord Mayor's show today, after the Lord Mayor's show today, in that performance. Did it feel simple to you?
In a way, yeah. I turned to my dad at half time and I said, this looks like a team that's been told before kick-off, we need 2 0-0s to be mathematically safe. And they were never really looking at getting out of second gear. They knew Brentford were on the beach as well. And, a couple of punts up, a couple of set pieces and that, and just wait for the chance to come. And just a guy who's had the week of his life was just there to somehow put his second goal in 6 days, which I don't think he's ever had a run like that.
2 in 6 years, I don't think.
I know, it's absolutely crazy. But no, it's a cliche, but it was professional. It was exactly what we needed to do. And I've had a lot of grumbles like on the way home, and it's just saying, terrible game, like terrible form. It's like, I don't give a damn. I don't give a toss. Like, we did what we needed to do, and that's it. And what Mo said there about 3 games, which we don't need to worry about. I think I remarked to Keith on the way in. Now it's actually happened. That Sheffield United game is the first game at Goodison since the pandemic that we don't have to worry about the results.
That
first time in 4 years.
Given the last 3 years, yeah.
Well, in the last 2 years, the last home game, we've needed the results. Like that's the first time in 4+ years that we can go to Goodison Park and go way every time we kick it out for the throwing and stuff. It's going to be an absolute carnival.
I'm turning up 2 weeks today. I'm turning up in a Hawaiian shirt and flip flops with a big fucking cigar.
Yeah. Might ask you with you as well.
Exactly.
Surely some form of like brothers in arms conga line that we can get going at that.
Honestly, the only thing I'm invested in now in this Premier League season is Burnley's revival to relegate Notts Forest and Luton.
Yeah.
Because that would just make it perfect. Oh, and also neither of Arsenal and City slipping up in the next 3 weeks. Either of them, I don't care. Like, it's an irrelevance. As long as one of them doesn't piss the bed, I'm fine.
Yeah, and do you know, I was saying just before we started recording, you see so many people saying I told you so, and we shouldn't have been this worried about this. I'll be honest, mate, I was petrified. Again, I was talking to Matt about it beforehand, but before we didn't have 9 points, just over a week ago, I was still shitting myself that we were going to go.
Oh, I was?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you remember, like I said to you earlier on this evening, after, you know, when we went on that little run of 4 wins in a row after the United defeat, and I said to you, we are galvanised. We will be mathematically safe by the end of March. I was a month out, and to put my money where my mouth is, I said, I'll bet you 20 quid to the charity of your choice. So, post-pod, I will be making a donation to Dave's charity of his choice.
Getting Sean Dyche another trackie.
And posting a link.
Where's the Iwobi tattoo, eh?
Right, Alex Iwobi left Everton. He abandoned us before I could go under the needle. So that's on him, not me.
A year later.
I know, but it takes a while to get an appointment.
I thought, you know, for how bad he was against Liverpool last week, by the way, because we're fucking atrocious.
Also, I thought back in December, back in the dark days of December, I thought we were going to be sound. Obviously, then we embarked on 3 months of carnival chaos and like plumb depths that Everton haven't plumbed since the 90s. And I was like you. I thought up until after Chelsea, I didn't even watch the Chelsea game. Didn't even bother watching it because I knew what was coming, right? And after I seen the result, I'm like, yeah, that's us. We're gone. This is a team with no fight. This is a team with no pride. This is a team that does not want to play for the fucking shirt, to play for the fans, to play for themselves, really, right? They looked dead and buried. Whereas, Luton haven't been on the best run. Forest aren't the best of sides. But you always felt there was a bit of fight about them until they inevitably succumbed. With Everton, we've lost some games this season at an absolute whimper. As in, from the first whistle, there was no point where it looked like we would take anything from that game. And quite frankly, it's not good enough. And it won't ever be accepted by an Everton supporter. And then we've had this last week, which is everything we demand from this team. Even if they hadn't won all 3 of those games, every single game of the last week, they have grafted from minute 1 to minute 90 plus whatever. And that's all we ask. It's not a big ask to ask from your team to look like you give a shit. It's not a big thing to want from a professional athlete. But they've showed that in spades this week, especially Wednesday. And we touched on it on Wednesday night, but we'll touch on it again, just harking back to Wednesday. That is everything that is good about Everton Football Club and good about Goodison Park. From minute one, it was feral. It was a bear pit. Call it whatever you want. Maybe not so much today. Sort of Saturday evening tea time. We obviously knew the Luton result. We knew a point was effectively enough. So there's not going to be that same ferocity about it. But you can't tell me that those players today didn't give a shit. They battled for that today. It wasn't a great game. The first half is up there with the worst halves of football I've seen. But there was effort, there was graft, there was tenacity, and there was fight about them. And that, for me, is all I want to see from an Everton football team until the point where we get ourselves that we're not taking Klarna loans and payday loans and whatnot just to sign some kid from Portugal you've never really heard of. Yusuf Chamiti, what a game he had today. Yeah. Well done, right? Until we get to that point where we are financially stable and we can compete, if it ever happens with the PSR rules and whatnot, all I want is commitment to what we give them, and that's what we've had for the last week. And it's the first time in a long time that I'm proud to say I'm an Evertonian.
That's a huge statement, but so relevant. I think when you hear that now, when you take some perspective, and I think the context of this last week will never be forgotten here, Matt. But probably a deeper conversation for us to have in the future days and weeks about Sean Dyche. Look, it's a classic Everton. Like, where's that been? And I still feel as if I mean, me and you sat there and agreed, and people have had to go at me. I know you don't go on social media anywhere near as much as you used to, if at all. But people saying to me, can't believe he said you wanted Dyche gone, I can't believe it. This is exactly what he's all about. That very thing in itself pisses me off even more about the fella. Yeah.
I said on Wednesday night that if Sean Dyche is going to be here, that's what it needs to look like. Wednesday was a fantastic night, and that was obviously greatly in part to the fact that the opposition was our local rivals. Today was also exactly what Sean Dyche should be when it's just a kind of lowly, unarsed Brentford side that comes to Goodison. And as Keith said, it's not glamorous, but it's just exactly what it needs to be. And if he is going to do anything progressive here, or he is going to be remembered remotely fondly, it's all going to be on the defensive work.
Got a big question to ask with that, though, what you've said there. And obviously, again, said that word a million times already, context, but, and probably an unfair question to ask you, but has that changed your view on him the last week?
100% not. We are now at that exact point of a podcast in an exact stage of the season where you can say, is this the point where we all sit around and say this absolutely cannot happen again next season? I remember standing upstairs in this pub after the Crystal Palace 3-2 victory, and we all collectively agreed that we're all incredibly relieved that it's over and this absolutely cannot happen again. And we're a couple of years down the line here, and we're in exactly the same position, in exactly the same boozer. The time has not evolved for Evertonians.
But it even looks worse, more difficult to actually get back from it, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. If someone tells you now that we have a very similar season to this one next year, it's believable. And I think part of that is because of the manager. And today's probably not the day to throw that into the mix, but if we're to go kind of really wide context here with what you want Everton to be now that we've reached this point of this season, for me it's not that. I want this to be more, and I like to think that people don't kind of hear that and think, well, where's your entitlement for that? Because I've supported a team that's never won anything in my lifetime, so I don't think that we deserve anything.
You're older than me.
I mean, all right, I'll take that back. I was 6 the last time we won the Charity Shield. But yeah, I just want more. I obviously want more points. I obviously want more success and trophies. But first and foremost, I want my match-going enjoyment experience of watching this football team to be fulfilling. and it isn't under him. And do not get me wrong, Wednesday night was very enjoyable, and I'll get on board with the whole feral fight nights every now and again when we need them. But I want to see good football, and I want to see an Everton team that I'm proud of week after week because of what it stands for and because of how it does things.
And today's not that then?
It feels like it's all. I'm obviously delighted that we won, and I'm delighted about the style of football I play, or the way that we do things, or the fact that we needed to get something against the Brentford side with three games left. Like with every coming season, with every coming challenge or relegation battle or whatever it may be, I'm finding it hard to motivate myself for these things. It's easy during the derby, and it's obviously easy when things are going well in the derby.
Sadly, when you've stayed up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, obviously. Today, and the whole kind of match day feeling was caveated by, as Keith said, by the fact that Luton lost that game earlier on, and we kind of knew that we were there. And that's all well and good saying with hindsight, but I think I'm done with this now. I look back. It's a sad reflection now that I look back at that Frank Lampard season of survival and think, wasn't that incredibly enjoyable? And it was compared to what we've had since. I shouldn't having to be rank our survival seasons based on how much of a novelty it was. It was then, and novelty is probably the word, because you don't revisit novelties year after year. It's a bit tiring now. And I think that the main problem with Sean Dyche on a very wide point for me is that if someone tells me that Sean Dyche's Everton side absolutely do not struggle next year, then I find it hard to believe them, because you kind of know what you're buying into. He's a very one-dimensional, with a kind of necessity about his being here in terms of.
Not only that, the teams that come against us will see that. As well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. How much his tactics work for me next season probably depend on how many massive lads we lose in the summer. We're going to lose one of them, probably two of them, and all of a sudden you're just going into the transfer market with no money, buying yard dogs so that you can satisfy his lack of philosophy. I'm ready for Everton to gamble, is what I'm saying. I'm ready for us to. The problem with Frank Lampard when we did survive is that we weren't brave enough as a football club for everyone just to shake hands and say we've achieved what we set out to here. When we sat down in January and had all these meetings in London that Tim Cahill sat in on for some weird reason, we all decided that Frank Lampard was going to keep Everton in the Premier League, and he did it. And at that point we all should have patted each other on the back and shook hands and gone our separate ways and thought, well, how are we going to avoid this happening? What does the director of football, who, if you're going to have one, is meant to implement the whole structure of the football club, what does he think that the image of Everton should be? And if it was just to kind of crack on with the last lad who kept us up because he's kind of deserved it for the job he's done.
Nice fella.
The problem is Everton's director of football is sat in his office ordering multi-packs of scampi fries off Amazon.
Well, do you know, if they can do a job at right back, mate, then
do you not think though, like Matt, a day like this to sort of confirm we're all sitting here relieved and stuff like that, but what Mark's just said there quite eloquently there is like I see a lot of juxtaposition with this and thinking that there's a large part of our fan base who love that side of Everton, love Everton playing like they did in those last three games, particularly the derby. But essentially, the point of what he said there is Everton needs to change for this to not happen again. And look, it's definitely going to be a conversation we have over the summer. Let's make sure it doesn't happen again, and we'll do all sorts of shows on it and whatnot, till we're blue in the face. But do you sort of get that in that sort of perspective?
What is this in terms of this shouldn't happen again? What is this? Is it we shouldn't have 44 points after 35 games?
Just
played?
answer that question.
I mean, I get your point.
I'd like to have more, yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that.
But from the base we started from, having to sell the players we've had to,
yeah.
like, I think this is a good start at progress. We've got the second most clean sheets in the league, the fourth fewest conceded goals. Like,
Do you think he's capable of progression beyond what we've seen this season?
I think he deserves us. He deserves the chance to prove that he can, yeah. And for our own sake as well. I mean, I will put my hands up and say, I said this when we were looking at bidding Lampard.
Yeah.
There comes a point when you've got to stop sacking managers. Otherwise you end up like Watford. They're on their 20th permanent manager since, what? It was something like their 20th permanent manager since like 2017 or something like that.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Like, at
We
some
first
point,
got Koeman in, wasn't it?
at some point you've got to let them see out most of the contract. Don't panic. Don't, like...
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people are saying after the run of 15 games, like, any manager will be sacked by now. But then we got him on 4 out of 5, and we're laughing. Like, that's why a season is measured over 38 games, 19 home, 19 away, not over 15, and certainly not one away game.
Yeah.
Because some of the headlocks we saw after that, I mean, it was an aberration of performance, but it was just quite frankly embarrassing. And in terms of the style of playing stuff, and you're right, Dave, a lot of Everton fans do like that. I'm one of them. I like the blood and thunder.
Yeah.
Like, I also like good football, inverted commas, whatever that is. But then I remember a time when we're 3-0 up against, was it Palace or QPR or whatever, and we're just passing the ball around, having a fun time. Instead of going ole, 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 our fans start booing. It's like, what do Evertonians actually want?
Yeah.
What do we actually want?
Blood and thunder.
I'd have that all day long, yeah.
Is
all
that
day.
what we get now, though?
We certainly did on Wednesday.
Wednesday night was a fantastic example of what those words mean. Do we get that enough from Dyche? I would probably argue not. I totally agree with your mantra in that you find someone who you have thoroughly researched and all the football buzzwords about this is what we want Everton to look like in the next few years, and you stick by them even when you go 10, 11 games where it's really sticky. I just don't think he's that man for me. I think, if you go back a few years in an alternate universe where Marcel Brand brings someone like Mikel Arteta in, for example, and he obviously goes on a really poor run of games, which he undoubtedly would have done. He's the man, and I say this totally separate from what he's done at Arsenal, but he's someone who you kind of invest in as a kind of younger, forward-thinking manager and say, well, we're not going to shit ourselves every time we lose a couple of games here. We're going to kind of ride bad spells out. Yeah. I'm going to allow you to do your thing. It's going to come down to personal thought in terms of whether you think Sean Dyche is someone that you want to kind of throw all your eggs in his basket. Yeah. But I honestly do think it's fine to say you've done a pretty good job here, but I'm ready to not see it anymore.
That's fair, right?
I was just going to say, personally, before we come over to you there, Keith, I think it's like a high risk and reward you get with somebody like him, because these last 3 games have been, like you say there, Matt, a lot of fans will support because it's a conventional Everton, traditional Everton, absolutely along with that. But when it's shit, it's really, really shit, and that's what gets me, because Keith, you were saying that when we become absolutely dying around Christmas and it's freezing, you think, why the fuck am I bothering with this football club? That's what say, afraid is probably the wrong word, but I think that's still an inevitability that you're going to get with a manager like Sean Dyche.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think what we need to take into account here, right, is there is no one single thing that Everton fans want. You cannot classify Everton fans as a single entity, right? You could have Pep Guardiola having Everton passing the ball 900 passes round the pitch, and you'd still have some fella on Twitter saying, just get it up the fucking park, dickhead. Right? There is no pleasing Evertonians in any way, shape or form. We are horrible. We are vile. We will boo the slightest thing, right? So, I mean,
that's right, in the 1-minute social media clip that we take from all this,
I mean, this is my Liverpool echo sort of give your head a wobble moment here, where the fans then turn on me and call for me to be sacked from the podcast. But there is no fucking pleasing us. No. Like, genuinely. People hated Romelu Lukaku.
I think the irony is the what discussion we're having right now. By the way, we've just been confirmed that we're still Premier League side.
Right? People hated Lukaku.
Send us down.
Yeah, honestly. Everton's most successful Premier League goal scorer. And people hated him because he didn't run enough. Right? John Stones has gone on to be one of the most decorated English centre-halves of all time. Right? Regular in the England team. He's captained City at times. People wanted him gone because he tried to play out from the back.
You can't be doing Cruyff turns in the 6-yard box at the park end.
I mean, to be fair,
it's your fault though. It's you in the park end. You lead this army.
Right. Can we just accept at this point that the park end is to blame?
Yeah.
Right? All you park enders.
No coincidence why Les isn't on tonight's pod.
All you park enders, I wish I was sorry, but I'm not. You are the reason that Everton are in the position they are in.
I've heard the ball boys have season tickets there, you know.
No, they get me started on that.
Right, no, actually, Matt raises a very good point. For the last 3 games, the ball boys have been fucking really good.
Because someone brought it up at the fan forum.
No way.
They did, yeah, it was on the minutes. It was on the minutes, someone brought it up at the fans forum.
Villa have just gone 2-0 up against Chelsea, which makes me even more angry that we took 6 off them, because they are shocking. Yeah, change that. Like, whatever the subject is to do with Everton, someone will have a moan, right? It is unavoidable. So you've just got to try and find that little happy medium that pleases the most people.
How
right?
minute is that though from what you've just said?
Well,
is it even possible?
Yeah, you can please a chunk of Evertonians, right? Does Sean Dyche play attractive, fast, flowing football? No. Will he ever? No. Do Everton do that in brief periods that result in great goals? Yes. See Beto against Newcastle, and who scored the second against Forest? Whoever scored the second against Forest? McNeil. That was a flowing, passing move from the back, right? Happens in brief spells, and then for 89 minutes, we launch fuck out of it, sending like Cuban missiles at Calvert-Lewin's head. Okay,
that
right?
Out today.
So, pick the little moments where it does happen, right? Everton this season, 12 clean sheets. It's like up there with the most in the Premier League. The fourth least goals conceded in the Premier League.
We've won more games than Brighton.
But are we not the second worst goals as well?
Oh yeah, no, goals scored is not great, right?
We've won more games than Roberto De Zerbi's Brighton, who play free-flowing attacking football.
And linked with the top 4 managerial job, by the way.
There you go, right?
All so what you have wiped out by the fact that Michael Keane played up front for Everton.
73 glorious seconds of what we've demanded for years. Put Michael Keane up front. Everton's most natural finisher. Right? There is no argument. If you argue with that, you're wrong. I'm sorry, you are wrong.
Would you play him and Shamiti and 2-man?
Yes, imagine.
Absolutely, right? Right?
You can't do with the last 3.
We come back to the Cuban missiles, right? Launch them at Michael Keane's head, knocks him down. Shamiti gets his nice little first touch. By the way, his first touch today was sublime. Absolutely brilliant. Considering that's what, his first start in the Premier League?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
His touch today was assured, it held the ball up, it was good, it got us up the field, right? He takes that little touch, he lays it off to Michael Keane, blammo, outside of the left foot, top bins.
This hit it.
Everton win the fucking league. We win the lot. We win the league. We win Wimbledon. We win the boat race.
Yeah, I'm inclined to finish that there, but I do want to get one final thought from each of you.
We've got a moan. We have got a moan.
Yeah, go on, mate. You go first.
We've got a good moan. So our goal, it was a good 2-minute VAR check for an offside.
Oh yeah.
I was baffled in the moment because it was right underneath me and they had a man on the line.
Then it was double checked, for after that too.
No, I'm going to show you
Whether he in front and dodging the offside when he shoots.
The big screen said it was James Garner who's being checked for offside.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
He was on the right hand side next to Harrison. At no point does he touch the ball. At no point does he get involved in the play. And at no point is he within 5 yards of an offside position. The ball goes over his head. The only one that is maybe slightly offside is, I think it's either, I don't know, McNeil or Young or someone on the left-hand side of the goal, as you see it from the Garner's perspective. But the only reason he's in an offside position is because he's behind the goalkeeper and they've got a man on the line. That's a too easy.
But he's level with the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
So it's a load of shite.
So he's not interfering with the goalkeeper. I cannot understand what they were looking after 2 minutes.
Right.
I really
VAR.
can't.
So the big screen is dictated by what comes from Stockley Park, right? Stockley Park have said we are checking an offside against James Garner. I'm going to show you an image now, which is great for us in the pub. Shit for anyone listening on a podcast. Right?
I'll put this image on when we put. Go on.
There's the image.
Yeah, I'll start the image.
Try and describe it, please.
So
That is James Garner.
right, okay, I'll describe it. So
There are
I can't actually tell who's who.
men.
Who's got the ball there?
This is great.
Right.
Order.
I know.
I was going to say,
Right.
right, yeah.
Ball comes over the top to Harrison, both on the edge of the 80-yard box. Just on the corner of the D of the 80-yard box is James Garner. Ball comes over the top. Harrison takes a few touches, fires it across the box. Just to say at this point, James Garner is about 4 yards into the 18-yard box. There are 5 Brentford players and the goalkeeper in front of him. Ball comes across, Garner Gate finishes it.
Yeah.
At no point is James Garner involved in the play at all, let alone offside.
Right?
It's
1,
inexplicable.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 Brentford players playing James Garner off onside. 8.
This is instant reaction first. A lot of things going on here.
I feel like we have to really continue to paint the picture for listeners. We're in the corner of the pub. Dave's wearing black, Matt's wearing blue.
There's people stood in and around us, wondering what the fucking hell we're talking about.
This was also raised to us by a couple of regular listeners. One of whom listens on his Sunday dog walk. When you listen to this tomorrow, even though you've heard it live in person, enjoy this moment because this has come from you. 8 players playing him onside and they took a 2-minute VAR check.
Well, you've got to draw 8 lines, haven't you?
Well, whilst we are talking about the goal, I think...
What a finish.
Has there ever been a more dangling contract player's performance than just a game in the last 3 games?
Absolutely.
Would you give him a year based off the last week?
He's played 2 more full 90 minutes more than what you need to get an Everton contract.
Well, it's similar to what we said about Gomez as well, isn't it?
If Andre Gomez came on at half time today and changed the game, we'd have all been lauding him as we need that lad next season.
We've got to be careful here. We might get a bit of stick for talking about signing new players up for any money. Even though we didn't say that.
I actually think it was that woman that was moaning about us standing in front of the telly.
Quick discussion on a club-friendly deal, i.e. not paying them 6 figures a week because they're a bit likely to become bit part players. Andre Gomez and Idrissa Gueye, would you give them another year, considering we are not likely to be in a position to be signing an entirely new midfield?
Only one of them.
Which one then? Oh, that remains to be seen. You mean?
Do we make them fight to the death over the contract?
I can't see us signing them both up for another year. It'll be one or the other.
Well, didn't someone mention that Gomez is on over 100k or something like that?
So's Ghana.
Really?
They're both on 6 figures a week.
So take them on reduced take one of them on reduced terms, but my personal opinion is I will probably keep them both on a much reduced salary, but I don't think that's going to happen. It's like last summer, everyone was kicking off about us not signing the centre half, and I was saying, stop troubling yourself about it. Sean Dyche has looked and said, we've got 4, that's all I need. he's not going to sign another one.
I'm
And I
gonna
don't
re-
think he's going to sign them both up.
I'm going to return to my cliche from Wednesday because it is a post-match special. Quick shout out for James Garner, magnificent today, and I really wish that free kick of his at the end had dipped in, because what an eye to see that it was on, and what a hit. And if that had dipped into the far corner, we're talking about that for weeks, right? The last few weeks, when you put him next to Idrissa Gueye, that is a competent midfield, which is something that was missing for that period where we didn't win.
Does that become most people not being asked about it? Don't know. We're safe.
Possibly, do you know what? You might be right, but he's taken a lot of stick on the pods this year, rightly so, because he's turned in some absolute stinkers. But the last week and also the Burnley game, he stepped up massively, and he's like, he epitomises what you want from an Everton midfielder. It's a very Joe Parkinson performance that he's putting in. I'm going back to the
One for the kids
90s
there.
here. One for the old ones amongst you.
Exactly what Matt wants us to play like.
It's a very, very industrious midfield performance, but it's what we need in there. It's a bit of bite in that engine room.
Little puppies.
And he's had enough shit off the last
The
couple
likes of me
months-
and Matt Jones.
the last couple of months, especially Matt Jones. Matt Jones hates him, and I think it's because he's from the Wirral. I think it's Matt Jones's Wirral bias showing through, but he's been re-promoted to Bidston James. He's Bidston Jimmy again.
I don't know where we're going with this. We're going.
I mean, to go back to the whole Idrissa Gueye question, there's no doubt in my mind that he stays.
Do you base that on just 3 games? I mean, he's been out a load of it though.
I think-
and that obviously that adds to your opinion, surely.
Yeah, I think at most points during the season, if you ask me that question, I'd probably say, yeah, I'd probably keep him. He is not by any means of the word a set the world alight midfielder. Never has been, never will be. There are multiple games this year where I think he's been, even when he wasn't great in earlier spells, he could always guarantee you a 6 out of 10. And there's been times this season where he's let himself down and had real stinkers, and Dyche has had to kind of full on hook him out of games. There's no toss up for me between those two lads. I mean, Andre Gomez is undoubtedly a very talented footballer. Great on the ball, and I've said it multiple times this season, he can offer Everton something that most other midfielders can't. But if you're only seeing it 3 or 4 times a season, before we even go into the financials of the man, what is the point? With Idrissa Gueye, at most stages during the season, if you're picking a 3-man midfield and you're trying to pick the strongest out of them for whatever kind of means you might have in the upcoming game, he probably makes the lineup.
He's at the base of it no matter what, really. Isn't
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, because Onana simply hasn't been consistent enough. None of the others have been consistent enough, be it from a performance or an injury point of view. And all the question marks you'd have over Idrissa Gueye, you probably have over every other central midfielder, bar Decore, who obviously walks into the side. There are bigger question marks and bigger areas of concern in this squad than how do we find a new number 6. If we start next season with him playing the first 6 games at the base of the midfield, I don't think anyone bats an eyelid. There's other issues. I'm not going to name players, but there are other players.
Name them.
There are other players.
Name them.
If we go into Jack Harrison the new season, we have got some players playing there. Then
He's had a fine week though.
yeah, he has. Or they all have.
He was
They all
Graft
have.
today.
Harrison, you got an assist.
He is one of those players whereby if he is at Everton next season playing consistent games, then your director of football hasn't done a good enough
Talking about
job.
Harrison here.
Yeah. If people like him, Ashley Young's had a great week. They've all had a great week. But if we're still playing this kind of 61-year-old fella at left back next season, then it's funny.
I want a right back as well. Don't forget.
Every time I make that shit joke, he gets 5 years older, and I hope people appreciate it.
One quick moment on the Ashley Young thing, and it shows you I guess it's like an insight into how much Mykolenko actually brings to the team. Is there was a moment today where James Garner got the ball on the very corner of the 18-yard box, and he looked over. He looked over his shoulder as if to play the overlap to the fullback. And Ashley Young was stood on the halfway line, and he had to turn back. And I thought, yeah, he's not overlapping you. Take it back, try again. And I mean, I guess it's a credit to what Mykolenko's actually become as a fullback. Yeah. It was just one of those moments where he looked and he was like, why is there nobody there? Where is my fullback? Ashley Young's on the halfway line with his hands on his hips, blowing chokes, breathing through an oxygen mask. He's in an iron. He's somehow ended up in an iron lung.
He's a Sean Dyche fullback. I mean, we've got a centre half on one side and a 66-year-old man on the other side. So we do need to have kind of expectations about what the side is being asked to do.
I can't wait till
Dyche picks them both up for work, doesn't he? Definitely gets them to Finch Farm. Listen,
they get Dyche on the bus with their over 60s bus pass.
Listen, we're putting that to an end because, a lot of people ask us what we're going to be talking about in the summer. I think the lads here, and including myself, will give us about 25 different subjects we can all start talking about as soon as this season finishes with 3 games left that nobody really cares about. But we'll be talking more about that as well. Bags of stuff to come as always. Everton have stayed in the Premier League. They're still in the Premier League. Yeah.
As Sean Dyche said about Andre Gomez, I can't believe he got 41 minutes out of that.
We shall not be moved.
We shall not be moved, indeed. That's the theme we're on here. Everton have stayed in the Premier League. We'll be back for more of that, certainly as the 3 games are to come, but also looking ahead to another 38 crazy games across the summer. Thanks for listening to this one in particular. We're back for more on Monday. The usual sort of thing is coming your way. Up the toffees.